Shalom, giving all praise to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rachahakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutation as always to the elect. And I wanted to answer a question that was asked on the comment board as pertaining to birthdays. Is it a tradition of the Israelites or if it's off? And the answer is no, it's not a tradition of the Israelites. When you go into the scriptures, birthdays are mentioned twice, and it both has to do with a heathen customs. Okay, and coming up real soon is this wicked Babylonian holy day. Okay, dealing with Christmas, which is supposed to be the birth of the Messiah, but when you do research into that wicked origin, it has to do with a off god, all right, dealing with Nimrod and other Babylonian and Egyptian deities that have nothing to do with the Holy Scriptures. Never in the Scriptures were we commanded to celebrate the birth of the Messiah or our own birthdays. Okay, we have holy days. Okay, now as you get Genesis the 40th chapter in the 20th verse, this is the first mention of birthdays. And what nation is it associated with? The Egyptians. Okay. Genesis 40 and 20, it says, and it came to pass the third day, which was Pharaoh's birthday. Okay. One of the Pharaohs, his birthday. Now, the word for birthday in the Hebrew is basically Yawam, which basically means a particular day. All right. If you want to tell someone to have a blessed day, you would say Barak, which is blessed Yawam. All right. Barak Yawam. Now, this was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. Okay, now this is the first mention of birthdays. Okay, now as you we can just jump to Mark 6. Let's see, and we'll just jump to the point. This is actually the story when John's head was cut off. Okay, Mark 6, and this is dealing with Herod. I start at 20. For Herod feared John, knowing that he was just man and holy, observed him, and when he heard him, he did many things and heard him gladly. And when a convenient day was come, that Herod, now this is the Roman Empire, and these are Edomites. Okay, and how do we know that the Herodians are Edomites? You can even go into history, and the father of the Herodian dynasty is Antipater. And what is he known as in history? Antipater the Idumean. Okay, this is the Romans, and where did they get their gods from? It goes back to the Babylonian and Egyptian empire. Thus did the Greeks. Okay, so they kept those same customs as the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Babylonians. Okay, this whole thing, Christmas is coming up. That is a Babylonian custom in which they celebrate the birth of one of their gods, Nimrod, Tammuz, and all of these various different things that have nothing to do with the Holy Scriptures. See, Christianity is based upon Babylonian and Egyptian customs. Okay, the birthdays is a Babylonian and Egyptian custom. And they were actually celebrating the birth of them becoming gods. All right. But those days eventually became associated with one's birth and was celebrated. Mark 6 and 21. And when a convenient day was come, that Herod on his birthday made a supper to his lords, high captains, and chief estates of Galilee. And as you go down, you can read the story of John, being beheaded, and get that information if you would like. So the two times that birthdays are mentioned in the scriptures are a custom of the heathen. Now I went and I typed in history of birthdays, and this is what came up. It says it all started with the Egyptians. It says scholars who study the Bible say that the earliest mention of birthdays was around 3000 BCE, and it was in reference to Pharaoh's birthday. All right, which we found that in the scriptures. Okay, showing you that this whole billion-year Because here it is. They say that the Egyptian dynasty is the oldest, all right, known dynasty, which is not. You had the Sumerian, which is the Babylonian Empire. All right. But when you go back to, common history, it only goes back around 6,000 years. Okay. To the Sumerian Babylonian Empire, man. Then the Egypt eventually came. But that cuts this nonsense of 1 billion trillion years ago. Okay. The first time that man made himself known on the earth goes back about 6,000 years, which is in line with the creation story. Okay. Dealing with the 1,000-year periods known as days in Genesis, the first day, the second day, the third day. Those were the 1,000-year periods. And when you align it up, it makes sense that man, the recorded history of man, only goes back about 6,000 so forth years. This whole billion-year nonsense doesn't make any sense. And when you look at how scholars try to record the Egyptian dynasty, they constantly push it back and back and back to fit their agenda. But that doesn't even fit a billion-year agenda. What the hell was man doing for billions of years that he just decided to record himself or make himself known about 6,000 years ago? He figured it out. That doesn't make any sense. But back to the topic at hand. It says scholars who study the Bible say that the earliest mention of birthdays was around 3000 BCE, and it was in reference to Pharaoh's birthday. But further study implies that this was not their birth into the world. Eventually down the line it came, but their birth as a god. When the Egyptian pharaohs were crowned in ancient Egypt, they were considered to have transformed into gods. This was a moment in their lives that became more important than even their physical birth. Okay. Pagans such as the ancient Greeks, which who did the Greeks get their gods from? Their belief system came from who? The ancient Egyptians. They attacked those libraries when they took those Egyptians down. And who took down the Egyptians out of the Greeks? The Ptolemy Empire, which was one of the 4 generals of Alexander. And this is all recorded in the Holy Scriptures. And when they took down Egypt, they got into those libraries and got all of that information and made sure to study their gods. Okay. To know, ultimately, how to rule, how to deceive. And Esau, he's a leech. He's not original in anything he does. This whole system that we're living in is based upon the ancient Sumerian, Canaanite, Egyptian, which are all Hamite empires, man. Okay. But anyway, it says pagans such as the ancient Greeks believed that each person had a spirit that was present on the day of his or her birth. This spirit kept watch and had mystic relation with the god on whose birthday that particular individual was born. So celebrating your birthday goes back to a custom that is not a custom of the Israelites. Okay. It's good to know this stuff. Okay. Let me go to the book of Genesis. Let's see here. Or we can go to the story of Job real quick. I'll get that. Job chapter 1. Job chapter 1. And I'll just jump down to the point. This is the story of Job. You can read that on your own time. Very good story. It talks about all of the substance he had. He was balling. All right. His substance was 7,000 sheep, 7,000 camels, 5,000 yoke of oxen, and so forth. Okay. And as you read down verse 4, Job 1 and 4, it says, and his sons went and feasted in their houses, every one his day. Every one his day. And when you research what this means, most likely it was maybe they were celebrating their birthdays or some off, all right, pagan ritual in which the Hebrews, the chosen people of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, the sons of God, were not to celebrate. And sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. It says, and it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them. Okay? They would have to be sanctified because they were unclean, and rose up early in the morning and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. Now, why did he do this? It says, for Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus Job did continually. Okay, showing you that Job was a priest. And we know in the scriptures, the priest, okay, going back to Adam, all right, was passed down to who? Abel, because he offered up the right sacrifice. That priesthood was only dealing with the sons of God and eventually the Israelites, the sons of Aaron. At the time that the law was given through Moses, Aaron and his sons, the priesthood are only the chosen people, the sons of God. So Job would have to have been an Israelite. He would have to have came through that chosen line, not an Edomite, as people are falsely spewing on the internet, because he was in the land of Uz. You had Israelites scattered, living all over the world, man. Just because one of the chosen vessels was in the land of Uz, which is associated with Esau, okay, in Lamentation, the 4th chapter, okay, because if you're saying Job is an Edomite, then you're saying that he's going to suffer the punishment that was promised to them in the scriptures, all right? But that's a whole nother topic for another time. So Job offered up sacrifices, showing you he was a priest, just as Noah was a priest, all right? Anyway, offered up sacrifices because his sons, all right, celebrated most likely their birthdays, okay? So the closest thing, when you get Genesis 21, the closest thing to this is when we get Genesis 21:7, that Abraham pretty much threw a feast because Isaac weaned, meaning he got off of the breast. He got off of sucking the breast and drinking, breast milk, and he finally was able to eat certain solids. So he threw a feast. This is Genesis 21:7. And she said, who would have said unto Abraham that Sarah should have given children suck? For I have borne a son in his old age. And the child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast the same day that Isaac was weaned. All right. And there's also customs of when a child reaches, manhood, there would be a feast, I forget what it's called. It's a custom amongst some of the Latin tribes. When a boy becomes a man, around 12, 13 years old back then, 12, 13, 14 years old is when a child was considered a man, and was basically you were what's the word I'm looking for? You were held accountable, all right, for the laws, That was around 12, 13, 14. They would throw a feast, all right? But actually celebrating birthdays was not a custom of the Israelites, okay? But right here, as we can see, when the child Isaac grew and weaned, which would usually be about anywhere from 4 to 3 to 4 to 5, 6, around that time, he would be able to start eating solid foods. Let me see here. And that was that. But, birthdays themselves, when you look it up, it's a pagan custom that has nothing to do with the Israelites. So hopefully, it's nothing too deep, but these are things we just go over to edify the body. Hopefully y'all are edified, giving all praise to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Racha HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutation as always to the elect. Shalom.